Spring savings are in full bloom right now at Lowe's, where you'll find great deals on everything you need to get your home in shape for the season. So hurry into your neighborhood store today to save big on all of your spring home improvement needs, like a $100 Lowe's gift card with the purchase of in-stock Husqvarna riding lawnmowers. Make your home happy all season long with great brands and great prices right now at Lowe's. Offer valid 3/9 through 3/21. Excludes garden tractors and zero-turn radius mowers. Excludes repaired and reconditioned items. Selection varies by location. U.S. only.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
Welcome to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check us out on Facebook, my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com, or also check out our company site, www.the110nation.com, for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Holy crap. The NFL definitely made its splash today. We got a lot of things to talk about there. You saw the storm brewing. You knew it was coming. It is like as soon as the first domino fell, all the rest of them started falling everywhere. And, oh, my Lord have mercy. A lot of moves, a lot of interesting things in the NFL. Good God almighty. Some things I'm still questioning. I would love to know, and I have not looked it up, so I'm not sure, and I'm going to look it up while we're on the show. But I would love to know how much Houston gave up to get Brock Osweiler, because I just couldn't imagine leaving a team that just won the Super Bowl, that has very talented receivers, has a decent running back, and has the number one defense. How do you give that up to go to Houston? I'm dying to get into the details of this contract, because I know what Denver offered. Denver offered around a 3-year, $45 million deal. So I'm hoping that 4 years for $72 million. So you're looking really not that much more. 18 a year, so just $3 million more a year to go to a mediocre team. But wait, there was other moves, so hold on. We're going to talk a little bit. Maybe Houston has got something now. As you know, they had the number one receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. They add Lamar Miller from the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So was it such a bad move? I mean, defense, Houston, J.J. Watts, and Jadeveon Clowney, if he ever grows up to be an NFL player instead of a high school player still. Cushing, I mean, all the pieces they have on that defense, I don't know if I could still leave for Mile High Stadium and what you already know in a system that you showed that you can win in. I just don't know if I can leave that. But anyway, we got Dylan Martin also joining us at 10 o'clock tonight to get us caught up where he is at in the 2016 season. Of course, we had him earlier in the year after he did ARCA Series testing at Daytona. And we know that he was moving from Florida here to North Carolina, so looking forward to seeing how he's adjusted to North Carolina and what 2016 has brought upon him so far this season, and just get caught up with him. So looking forward to having him on the show as well. Oh, my goodness. It knows that I'll say it, had to suffer through the first part of the show yesterday. The second half, Izzo took off with it and was dynamite. But the first parts, I had a lot of million things going on all at one time and coming through, and I kept getting sidetracked and lost my train of thought and everything else. I do want to apologize. I promise you it won't happen tonight. I've gotten everything taken care of that had to be taken care of today. So it is one of those things, not having anybody else living, pretty much, I'm not going to say living by myself because I'm renting a spot from a room from somebody, but going from having, a little bit more help and just having more things accessible and more time to now where everything just bumped up against each other and was just unable to get everything taken care of before the show ended or before the show started. So things just kept coming through. But anyway, glad to be here tonight. Glad we're in the middle of the week. Thank God. Tomorrow's payday for me. I'm really thankful for that. I've had $10 in the bank account, and I probably had about $4 worth of change. And since Sunday, I've lived off food-wise the $4 worth of change. Needless to say, I've shedded quite a few pounds since I've moved. As a matter of fact, according to the scale at the gym, I have dropped 27 pounds in about the last 10 days since I moved, just because of the eating habit changes, being back at the gym. I know it's an extreme amount, but you also got to understand how much I was eating on a daily basis. It made no sense. I would eat 3 full, and when I say full, I'm the type I eat full meals when I eat. When I go to Taco Bell, it's 4 5-layer beefy burritos, or now that they came out with those new quesalupas, I'm 3 or 4 of those easily. When I say full meals, I'm eating full meals. My cereal bowl is the size of the big butter Tupperware bowls that you can get, like the Country Crock stuff. So I do eat healthy. And then if I'm working, I would pick up a snack or two while I was at work. If not, I always snacked once I got off the show and Shorty would get to the house. And I can't even begin to imagine how many calories I was consuming. I would say at least 5,000 easily a day, and not in a good way, not like The Rock. And I saw that post where they talked about a guy took on the Rock Challenge, or I'm not going to call it the Rock Challenge, but challenged himself to consume what Rock eats on a daily basis for a month. And they were talking about how expensive it was. It was like $40 a meal or something ridiculous. He only put on like 3 or 4 pounds, but he also put on lean mass and really started to he not only did he eat like The Rock, he also put in the same kind of workout, the same, obviously not the same weights, but put in the same effort of a workout and did it for a month straight and gave 100% towards it, and he ended up getting stronger, and even though he only put on 3 pounds, he put on a lot more muscle, and I forget the exact numbers, but I was eating 5 calories of the not-so-Rock diet, and to go from that, regardless how much I've actually worked out, which I've been in the gym like 3 days, 2 days. I did Monday, Tuesday. I took the day off. I tell you what, doing 7.5 miles the last 2 days, I know it's not a lot. And I know I used to do 8 to 10 miles a day when I was in there. After not being in the gym for over a year, I needed a break this morning. Plus, I had 3 straight 8-hour shifts, and my job, I just stand there the whole time. So I needed to give my legs a break from standing and doing all the extra cardio. Just the calorie intake difference. Because when you're spending about $1 a day in food, like that does a lot of elimination on the calorie intake. And I've been doing it smart, because even though that's all I'm eating, I'm still eating healthy. I could grab a pack of Pop-Tarts for 99 cents, but I grabbed a granola bar for 99 cents or something. So between going to the gym, but more specifically going from like 5,000 calories to like 500 calories a day or less, that also helps drop a lot of the weight all of a sudden. But Just didn't have time to, I forget what I was even talking about my weight. Other than the fact that I lost a lot of weight, it's been crazy. But anyway, we didn't come to trying to remember why I got sidetracked in the whole weight thing. You know, sometimes I wish I could just rewind the show a little bit and play it back on my ear to hear what I was actually talking about before I get sidetracked on these little things. And that's why I'm not allowed to take messages during the show, and I'm not allowed to read this or read that because I notoriously will get sidetracked just that easily. Kansas City Chiefs will have two draft picks. Will have two draft picks, including a third round this year, taken from them after the NFL determined that they violated the league's anti-tampering rules in 2015 when allegedly making direct contact with free agent to be Jeremy Maclin. That's not getting a lot of talk. This would have been the New England Patriots. Oh my God, my social media, anything else on social media would be just downloaded and covered with the Patriots cheating once again and not following by the rules. I'm not going to knock the Kansas City Chiefs. You did what you did, and one, I would like to know how they found out. Like, Jeremy Mack was playing for the team, so why would you tell on your own team and get them in trouble? So I'm really curious to know. Mack was still under contract with Philadelphia Eagles at the time during the league's free agency negotiation period, often called the legal tampering period, last offseason. Teams are not allowed to make direct contact with prospective free agents, only the representatives until the start of the new league year. But I'm not going to knock them because every team, this goes to prove my point. The point that it makes no sense for all these fans to hate the Patriots strictly because they assume that the Patriots are the only team cheating. Every team cuts the corners. Every team cheats. It's all about who gets caught. And obviously, the New England Patriots, the one time that they actually got caught, high-profile team, winning all the time. Of course, somebody had an extra eye on you and was doing their best to find whatever they could about you to bring you down. Atlanta getting fined for making fake crowd noise. The New Orleans Saints and the whole bug tapping, wiring stuff. Now you got this team being docked draft picks for violating when they were allowed to talk to them directly. I mean, every team does it. And I hate getting on social media, and it has anything to do with the New England Patriots because that is what everybody that is that hates the Patriots with a passion, that's the direction they want to go. And can we not argue the case in hand? Why is any argument we have about the New England Patriots got to be about Deflategate or got to be about Spygate? I mean, Deflategate, they can't even prove that. I think it's just a joke and a mockery of the judiciary system that this has got to go to court again when nothing has changed and there's no additional proof that Tom Brady had anything to do with these deflated balls. I would love for one time to get into a big discussion with a group of people when we talk about the New England Patriots, and it has to do with what's currently going on, not stuff they've done in the past or been accused of doing in the past. I mean, when we talk about the Atlanta Falcons, do we talk about that? When we talk about the New Orleans Saints, do we talk about that? When we talk about the Chiefs, we're not going to be talking about, they sneak around and try to snag players before they're allowed to snag players and blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen. They might talk about that they're slated to lose the 91st overall pick in this year's draft, as well as a sixth-rounder in 2017, and also the team is fined $250,000, with head coach being fined to $95,000 and the general manager being fined $25,000, that might get talked about. That's a lot of money going around. But that's going to be the end of the conversation, is just how much money the NFL just fines them. There's not ever going to be something that's ever just thrown up in an argument when we talk about the Chiefs, like everything that gets thrown up in when we talk about the New England Patriots. I'm not a New England Patriots fan, and I know sometimes it sounds like I'm a New England Patriots fan because it seems like I'm defending the New England Patriots, and it's not. We hold these different standards. The same thing D'Angelo Williams was talking about earlier. We hold these certain standards for certain teams or certain players, and we don't hold the same standards for other teams and other players, and it's just crazy to me because every team is out there cheating, and if there was somebody out there really trying hard, they would find something that team is cheating on. All you do is look hard enough. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I'm not knocking any team for doing it. If I'm an owner, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to be the 2015/16 Denver Broncos. I'm sorry, but I want to be Super Bowl champs, and I'm going to do what I got to do. We see this in every sport. I just don't like sitting there in any argument we have about the New England Patriots. It's got to be about Spygate or Deflategate now. And anytime we talk about any other team, we could stay on subject. We could talk about the current. Let's get that one idiot. Well, I'm a Dallas fan. I have this many rings. Well, this has nothing to do with just because you're a Dallas fan and you're anti-Steelers. Let's stay to what's going on with the Steelers or you know the Giants and you know talk about a 49er. You know, you always have one of those idiots that join into a conversation, and because they're the rival of that team, they got to throw that little comment in there. But outside of that, they stay on topic. It really just it gets to be overbearingly repetitive. Like I don't understand. Is that like the only arguments that you can have against the New England Patriots? I mean, at different points of the years, there's things we can point out and talk about, put them down for. But instead, it seems like fans, the only thing they can do, talk negative about the New England Patriots is that one thing, and it's been beat into the bush. Nobody really cares at this point, except those that are very anti-New England and feel that that's all they got to talk about. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. But the Chiefs are going to be docked 2 draft picks. I mentioned that Brock Osweiler going to the Denver Broncos for 4 years, $72 million. Not a bad paycheck. Be curious to know if you'll end up being worth it. I mean, you're going to a different system. You don't have quite the coaching staff. You don't have as deep of a receiving core. I'm not going to say the receivers because DeAndre Hopkins was on point last year. We know that Denver offense is going to block. And Peyton Manning back there. You had to do what you had to do to keep them up. It's just going to be interesting. I mean, obviously it's an upgrade for Houston. I wanted him on Cleveland. And it would be the same thing, you know, Cleveland, is it going to be worth it? Do you have the team to be able to surround Brock Osweiler? You got to remember, you know, he's only played a few games. This is it. So you're kind of taking a gamble with it. It's a good gamble, don't get me wrong. But now where does this leave Denver? You don't have Peyton Manning, which everybody just assumed that Brock Osweiler was just going to step into the role and become the starting quarterback. He said, no, I'm going to Houston. Kind of leaves Denver in an interesting predicament because you no longer have a starting quarterback on your roster. Now, I know that there's a few names out there floating around, and Colin Kaepernick and RG3 are the biggest of the names being thrown around. And I know that there's one other quarterback name that's being thrown out there, but I think that one was kind of left field, if I remember correctly. I wasn't thinking that it was a quarterback that was really in the hunt, which those two quarterbacks, I don't know. You went from having an offense that was used to a pocket passer. I mean, Peyton Manning was not running around. So now you're talking about possibly bringing in Colin Kaepernick and RG3, whose arms are not as good, and they like to run around a lot. Obviously, the Denver Broncos got to do something, and I feel for them, because if your two biggest, and I like this other name that's been thrown in here, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I have never been a Ryan Fitzpatrick fan, but out of those three quarterbacks, I would have to say Ryan Fitzpatrick, because your offense is already set up to have a pocket passer, not this read option garbage, not have a quarterback back there that's not that accurate. And I'm sorry, but RG3 and Colin Kaepernick might have some speed, can't outrun the defense or a quarterback, and they might have arms that they can throw that ball, but they're not accurate enough, and not what they've been used to anyway. And so, I feel if you get those two clowns back there, you might as well have just gone back to having Tim Tebow back there. I mean, at least you got less of a chance of someone getting hurt. And honestly, if you're down to talking about RG3 or Colin Kaepernick, I'm going with Kaepernick because RG3 has got too many injury issues. So, I mean, to me, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick or Colin Kaepernick, and then if they already been signed up by somebody, then maybe go with RG3, but that would not be my top choice. No way. But it's interesting how the Denver Broncos went from having a legend in Peyton Manning and a legitimate starting quarterback for them to nothing. Nothing at all. That's insane how quick this day changed for the Denver Broncos, and that's crazy. I don't think that I ever thought that Brock Osweiler was really going to go anywhere else. At worst case scenario, I thought that he was going to shop around to get what his value is and let the Denver Broncos know, this is what I've been offered, this is what I'm going to need from you to stay here. And that was going to be the route, and they were going to keep Brock Osweiler. I never put that thought in my mind. But you know what? Brock Osweiler, he's going to go play somewhere else. Never thought that. Matt Forte went to the New York Jets. I'll tell you what, a team that just barely missed the playoffs by losing to the Buffalo Bills, which is still amusing to me that the Jets once again got screwed by Rex Ryan. Add Matt Forte to the roster. I like that. Now, obviously, the Jets need to really jump on the Ryan Fitzpatrick and keep him there. Obviously, with Brandon Marshall loving it and Decker having a good season, you add Matt Forte, Chris Ivory is gone, but Matt Forte. You keep Ryan Fitzpatrick, you got a team a little bit better than last year. And with Miami's moves, defensively they've gotten a little bit better, but offensively they lost a running back. They lost Lamar Miller. So in Buffalo, I mean, Mario Williams is out, but they kept Richie Incognito. I don't know, it's a good move. I hope that Matt Forte can stay healthy. I think that's just the true judgment on whether or not this ends up being a win-win. That's Matt Forte went to the Jets. The Jets, gave him an opportunity. He stays healthy. I definitely like that move. Pac-Man Jones stays in Cincinnati, 3-year deal. The New Orleans Saints steal away Coby Fleener from the Indianapolis Colts, 5 years, $36 million deal. I like that. The Saints obviously needed to give Drew Brees another contract, or another target, and Fleener's a good target, so I definitely like that move. I think that the Saints kind of dragged the ball on that. Holston's gone. You lost Jimmy Graham. They should have already been finding targets. The Saints should have been reloading. They should have reloaded in the last offseason and got some key players. And I just felt that they kind of drug the ball on that. It's almost like they took the Jimmy Graham leaving like in total shock or something. Like they just weren't able to move. I don't know. Pac-Man Jones staying in Cincinnati. It's a good fit for Cincinnati. I've never really been a Pac-Man Jones. I'm sorry, but I know I shouldn't let off the field stuff cloud my judgment of somebody, but you got to act professional. You're a professional athlete. You get paid millions of dollars to do what you do. You're expected to be held to a certain standard. You're expected to act a certain way. And for some reason, Pac-Man Jones doesn't like to do that. And that directly affects how I look at a player. And like I said, I know it shouldn't, but it does. When it's serious enough. A little BS garbage I can do away with, and whatever. But when it affects your game, or it affects other people, or children and women specifically, then that changes my judgment of you. And Pac-Man Jones is just one of those players that he's a good player. I wouldn't say great, and I wouldn't say Pro Bowl, but he's a good player. So, good fit for Cincinnati. He's been in the system. He's helped that Cincinnati team year in and year out look very impressive in the AFC North. Can't win a playoff game, but I think that's more on your coach who can't finish to win one. But all in all, good move for Cincinnati. Giants end up taking Oliver Vernon, formerly with the Miami Dolphins. 5 years, worth $85 million, $52.5 million of it guaranteed. It's a lot of guaranteed money. The Giants' sake as they re-signed JPP, a 1-year deal. I think we got a little bit more of the details about it coming up. You got the weapons on offense. As much as Eli Manning is not elite, but even more seriousness, as much as I do not care for Eli Manning, there's weapons on that offense. You have a receiving core that is really good. You have a quarterback that could get them the ball. Your defense has got to shut teams down. Your defense has got to play like the 2 years you went to the Super Bowl and they carried you through the playoffs and through a Super Bowl win. That's what you need. It's not so much you need to be focused on that offense. There needs to be a lot of focus on that defense. That offense can put up points. That defense has got to stop them. Another now former Denver Bronco free agent is off the market. Danny Trevathan is headed to the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears need work on that defense. Like the move. Like I mentioned earlier, Houston went ahead and got Lamar Miller, 4 years, $26 million contract, a little over $6 million a year, 14 of it guaranteed. So nice little payday, as Lamar will probably be finishing up his career there. The Buccaneers give Doug Martin a new deal, 5 years, worth $35.75 million, so just over $5 million a year. Not, I don't know. That's kind of a. I feel that Doug Martin probably could have got a little bit more. You got $7 million there, and you got. Well, no, I take that back. I was thinking for some reason that was giving him $5 million a year. So, yeah, I like that deal. A little bit more than Lamar Miller, and with about $7 million a year versus a little over $7 million versus Lamar Miller's a little over 6 years. So I like that. Dougie Martin, obviously a good fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that dual backfield with Jameson Winston and the receivers they had on there. They'll continue to get better. They had a pretty decent first season. And so these pieces, as long as they can keep them, and obviously they're working on doing that. This Tampa Bay Buccaneer team can only improve, and with the Saints kind of going through their rebuilding or whatever you want to call what's going on there, and with Atlanta, we can't figure it out. They come out last year and start off 5-0, 6-0, then fell flat on their face. You don't know what you're getting with the Atlanta Falcons. And their players are starting to leave and retire and get dumped like Roddy White. So the only thing that leaves you is the Carolina Panthers. And so I don't think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a NFC South champion material, but you might luck out and find yourself in a wild card race. So, and as much as I do not want to see that. Just like as much as I did not want to see this move, Travis Benjamin leaving the Cleveland Browns going to the Chargers. That one kind of hurt. Good receiver. Obviously, now having Phillip Rivers as your quarterback, that is a plus for Travis Benjamin instead of having to go from the trio joke of, was it Austin Miles, or no, not Austin Miles, Traven Austin, whatever the former quarterback from the daggone Rams was, Johnny Joke and Josh McWhatever. At least Benjamin gets a quarterback to actually throw the ball. It sucks because I wanted him to stay at Cleveland Browns. I like his energy. I like his ethic. I like a lot of things about Travis Benjamin, and so kind of disappointed that we lost him, and I'm also kind of disappointed about the fact that Alex Mack went ahead and left us as well. Went to the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, that offensive line is a big concern for the Atlanta Falcons. So obviously that was a very good move. I just don't like it because we lose our quarterback, or we lose Alex Mack, and that we're already losing enough pieces, and we're still unclear on where we're going, and I don't even think a fan has any idea what's going on. I don't even know if the front office or the head coach knows what's going on. It really blows my mind, the unclarity and the lack of direction that the Cleveland Browns have. And I've also heard rumors of possibility of Joe Thomas not want to be there no more. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, no matter how dedicated you are to a team, or no matter if that was your team that you grew up wanting to always play for, you only can put up with the BS for so long before it gets old. And you can only handle not winning or even make the playoffs for so long before it gets old. And you can only handle being the butt of every joke for so long before it gets old. And I mean, I don't take offense to Alex Mack and Travis Benjamin leave. It just kind of hurts. The players I didn't want to leave. Chase Daniels is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought that was kind of interesting. 3-year deal to reunite him and head coach Doug Peterson. But I thought that was an interesting move for the Philadelphia Eagles. San Diego Chargers go ahead and keep Antonio Gates, 2-year deal. Really not a surprise there. So now you add Travis Benjamin to the Chargers, and then you re-secure Antonio Gates. Now you start giving Philip Rivers some targets. Cincinnati Bengals and safety George Aluka agreed to 5-year, $30 million deal. Obviously a key piece to why the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been as good as it is. A great pickup. Janoris Jenkins takes his talents to the New York Giants to help increase the defense. Like I said, it's the defense that needs the focus. It's not so much the offense. Victor Cruz did, and we're talking about this here in a second, did sign with the Dallas or with the Giants. Linebacker Rolando McClain agrees to a 1-year deal worth $5 million to stay with the Dallas Cowboys. Marvin Jones is leaving Cincinnati, going to the Lions. The deal is expected to be about $8 million per year. Chris Ivory goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought this was interesting because deal that's worth, I believe, to be about $6 million a year, because there is a lot of potential in Jacksonville. A lot of potential. And to add a solid running back could make the race out there in the AFC South interesting. With the Colts and the kind of up and down season they had last year, and the Houston Texans, I mean, they were just barely above 500, both those teams. And then Tennessee, well, that's Tennessee. Even though they've added some nice pieces, it's still Tennessee. And I don't think anybody's expecting a lot out of Tennessee still. This division is wide open. And Jacksonville keeps adding the right pieces. Jacksonville might surprise. Might catch a few of those teams sleeping. And that ought to make for an interesting year out there in the AFC South. The Oakland Raiders, I told you, there's only a few pieces away from taking the West, and this is one of the pieces that is looking good for the Raiders. Bruce Irvin, formerly of now the Seattle Seahawks, is going to find his way to the Oakland Raiders. I like that move. Just helps make that Oakland Raider defense a little bit better. Like I said, there's only a piece or two offensively and maybe a piece or two defensively because of the retirement of Woodson, and maybe a piece or so on the offense away from contending for that division. And now it makes it even more interesting how that Denver does not even have a legitimate starting quarterback right now. So just how interesting everything just got. And then the Kansas City Chiefs on top of that get draft picks, and why the Oakland Raiders are continuing to get better. And San Diego, who I originally had to win the West last year, the pieces they had, will that help them overcome all this? Because their season last year, that was kind of head-scratching how horrible the San Diego Chargers looked last year. Miami Dolphins, we talked about this yesterday, the day before, went ahead and get Mario Williams. Mike Wallace is no longer a Minnesota Viking. Kind of curious to see where he will land. There's a few teams out there could use a fast receiver. And so very, very curious to see where Mike Wallace ends up and which quarterback gets the opportunity to be able to air it out. Like I said, JTV is staying in the Giants. They're staying in New York, staying with the Giants. 1-year deal. Tamba Hali have agreed, them and the Kansas City Chiefs agreed to a 3-year contract. Nice little security there. Jacksonville went ahead and got Malik Jackson from the Denver Broncos, a 6-year deal. That's another deal that was done. Like I said, the Victor Cruz pay cut taken and contract restructured, and he is going to be staying with the New York Giants, which I don't think that was really a shock that was going to happen. But what I tell you, busy day in the NFL. It's crazy to you get to the house or throughout the day. I'm constantly trying to keep up with everything while I'm at work, and just to see every time that you open up the timeline. I was going to say news feed. I was going to say timeline feed instead of timeline or news feed. But every time you open it up, or anytime you open up anything, Yahoo, NFL, it don't matter what you open up. There was something going on in the NFL today, and it was just crazy. It's been a while since I've had that kind of excitement, especially on social media, and it was fun. Wait to see how the rest of the dominoes will fall, and which teams are going to finish up this free agency and getting the pieces that are necessary. The necessary pieces to get their teams, but I tell you what, it was interesting. You just never knew when you opened up the social media what you had missed or what was going on, or any time you started to dig into anything, you was afraid that something was going to come across and you weren't going to be the first one to see it. And today, obviously, opening up the free agency start of the year, it definitely made today a fun day to be an NFL fan, and even more so a fun day to be able to sit here and talk about it. So I wonder if the thought ever crossed Denver's mind when they were standing up there, more so the front office, but when they were standing up there celebrating the fact that they had just won the Super Bowl. And I wonder if any of their thoughts at that point in time was, well, we just won the Super Bowl, but now that the season's over with, we no longer have a starting quarterback. We need to start looking on who we're going to make our quarterback. Like, I wonder if that was ever something that crossed anybody's mind. I know there's the possibility. I know there's always a possibility of trades happening and players, and players not re-signing with the team. But I think that the Denver Broncos were pretty confident that Peyton Manning was about to leave and retire, and Brock Osweiler was going to be their new quarterback, and they were going to have an opportunity to draft a quarterback or get a young free agent at some point to be mentored and be the backup. I think that's what they honestly believed was going to happen. I don't think in their wildest dreams at any point last season to include, probably even a month ago. I don't know when, they was finding out anything, but I think that they thought they was pretty set for their future, and this is not something that they were going to have to worry about. And I think, I don't know, it's I'm not going to say humorous, even though it kind of is, but that's just, ESPN said it was fooled by a fake Twitter report of Vernon signing with Jaguars. Free agency hadn't officially started. The fake reports were flying. Even ESPN even got duped by a big one on Twitter. During its NFL Live show, the network discussed a signing that did not happen, Oliver Vernon to the Jacksonville Jaguars for major money. Host Trey Wingo and analyst Adam Schefter, Herman Edwards, Tim Hasselbeck, and Teddy Bruschi even spent several minutes discussing the deal, which might have been seen by a producer by someone posing on Twitter as Fox's Jay Glazer. The original report even misspelled Vernon's first name as Oliver, which was a nice touch. Then ESPN realized the mistake, and it was left to interpret reporter Schefter to clean up the mess. Sometimes people get duped by fake accounts, Schefter said, and there are people here who got duped by a fake account. There's no deal with Jacksonville right now. It's still happening, unfolding as we speak. We apologize for that mistake. We'll keep you posted when Oliver Vernon does get a sign. That's funny stuff, because you're a big company with a really big staff and people that should be doing their research and getting all the information back. So I understand if you're a company like this, or a small company that's only got a handful of employees or whatever, and you're just going off what you can find. But when you're ESPN, the worldwide leader, well, when you have contracts come in, and breaking news come in, I would think that somebody there does make a phone call, because it's ESPN. I am sure that somebody is willing to talk to them from Jacksonville, or somebody is willing to talk to them from Miami, or their agent is willing to talk to them. So, I can understand if I got on the phone and try to call somebody and get this information that maybe I won't get through. But this is ESPN, and so somebody's going to tell them something. And for you not only to talk about it and make this trade, announced on your show, all of you talk about it before it is finally brought to y'all's attention. That to me is human. I think thankfully I've never had a moment like that. I think fortunate for me, though, everything that I have to talk about, or get to talk about anyway, is so late at night, 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, that usually everything's been sorted out by the time I get on the show. I think that's probably why I've been lucky. I would obviously apologize if it feels stupid, but what can you do if that's the facts in front of you? That's the, not the facts, but that's the information in front of you. That's the information in front of you. But it just blows my mind that a company such as ESPN, and even if Fox would have done this surprise, I probably would have been shocked if Bleacher Report, as big as they've gotten. But that just kind of amuses me that nobody there thought it was necessary to dig into any kind of factual backing to this story. And I think that's entertainment there for you. And I just saw this, and I got to say, this is not even sports related, and try not to, and now at this point, I'm just not trying to get too deep into a topic, because we got Dylan Martin joining us here in just a few minutes. But this was an article, and I just came across it, and rather, I'm not going to say entertaining. It's actually sad because somebody's dead. But because of why this lady murdered her roommate, that's kind of wow. Woman murders college roommate for sending too many Candy Crush requests. I tell you what, I'm glad it's not such a popular thing anymore, because there for a while it was ridiculous, all the requests get when it comes to social media, and I hate it because if I want to play games, I will turn on the PS3 or the Wii. That's what I got them for. I don't have my phone or Facebook to play games. That's not what I got it for. But yeah, that's. I think there's been times I felt like I probably could have really just like shook somebody. I don't know if I could actually kill somebody, but to know, well, I'm not gonna say I don't think I could. I know I can't kill somebody, but not for Candy Crush anyway. Leave my kids out of it, then here you go. But could have shook a couple of people's many Candy Crush requests and other ones. I forget what the other one is. I don't think that the stupid bird game was something that ever got a lot of requests. But I'm just glad that all that finally settled down, because that was about overbearing. But to have somebody kill, that's like wow. But anyway, I think I just want to get too deep into anything, knowing that we are getting ready to jump into having Dylan Morton join us. Like I said, very, very excited about having him come on the show. Been on the show many times. We've had an opportunity to kind of see him grow, not only his racing career, but also in front of a microphone, and it is really a great opportunity to talk to somebody that is so highly involved in the community as well, what he does for the Shriners Hospital and all the other different things that he does part of the community. It's just really a cool thing to be able to have someone on that is so caring and is so highly involved with the community, and doing it because he genuinely likes to do it, not because he's obligated by sponsorship or obligated by this, that, and the other. That he truly is touched by what he does. Brian France surprised about diversity concerns after Trump endorsements. Brian France apparently not anticipating any backlash regarding NASCAR diversity program and his endorsement of Donald Trump. The NASCAR CEO told the Associated Press that he was very impressed when NASCAR's diversity efforts came under scrutiny. Very surprised when NASCAR's diversity efforts came under scrutiny after he took the stage at a Donald Trump rally last week and endorsed the Republican candidate. I was frankly very surprised that my diversity efforts for my whole career would have been called into question over this, in my view, a routine endorsement, France told the AP. NASCAR has created the Drive for Diversity and a series in Mexico under France's watch. Much of Trump's campaign has centered around the construction of wall between the United States and Mexico. But not only that, NASCAR has previously pulled its 2015 events from Trump properties because of comments the candidates made over the summer regarding Mexican immigration. You know, we talked about this. I kind of want to get this out of the way before we get Dylan on the show. We talked about this, and I think that everybody that I've talked to about this, and we talked about this with guests on the show as well, is all on the same level. We all kind of agree that, one, it was Brian France, not NASCAR, that endorsed NASCAR. But since you're the CEO of NASCAR and you're pretty much NASCAR, yes, that pretty much makes it you saying NASCAR endorses Donald Trump. Where we all came to an agreement is you're the CEO of the company. Your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, all that stuff, that is stuff that stays private. That is stuff, I'm not saying you got to be ashamed of it or anything else. It's one of those things that you have discussions with your family. You have discussions with your close friends. You know, it is not something that you get on stage and announce, or really even something you make public. It's not like something that a stranger comes up and says, you know, Who do you endorse or who's NASCAR? No, it's one of the things that, when it comes to politics and religion, because there's such touchy subjects, they all impact all of our lives in different ways, and people take those topics very personal. And so those conversations should be left for personal time when you're with your family, when you're with your close friends. The only thing that you should get on the stage and say anything about NASCAR is things that affect the sport directly. Any kind of rules, anything about a track, stuff like that. Nothing that's got to do with politics or religion. Like I said, it's not one of those things that I'm saying you need to be ashamed or embarrassed or keep your, stuff, personal because of, just being ashamed of it. But it's one of those things that personal life and business life, that's two different things. That's why I don't sit here and preach politics or preach religion or talk about it. I think the most I talk about is the fact that NASCAR still does prayers before every race. And I think we briefly talked about the fact that Donald Trump has been on a couple race cars. I think they're just showing support. I don't think that they were actually, sponsored purposes. I think it was just promotion or whatever the case was. I don't know the agreements between the drivers that had Donald Trump on the car. But I just feel that when you're a CEO or an owner of a company or a president of a company, you should be directly worried about the business. And when you're talking about anything else that's personal, it's just stay personal. And I think Brian France is going to catch a lot of negativity for it. And I'm not going to say rightfully so. I think that's just why you keep things personal. But I also don't agree with it. And for the fact is because he has... okay. I wasn't going to answer. I was assuming that you just accidentally pressed one anyway. And I have people that's going to message me, make sure I know that they weren't trying to get on the show. But that's exactly why I'm not allowed to. So why I'm not allowed to read messages. God, doggone it. They need to focus on what betters their company, what makes their employees be able to to have lucrative careers and not be focused on it. Like I said, I care less. I think that this election, I think everybody thinks this election is about a big joke anyway. You kind of just picking the less of all the evils out there, and it's kind of what we're stuck with. So, I mean, I know what I'm talking about. Brian France and the diversity program. It's where I don't agree because obviously Brian France is doing everything he can to have these different programs to make this sport to be as diverse as possible. And the driver diversity program is doing great. We're getting an opportunity to not only see a lot of drivers that we possibly never would have got to see. Hell, this show has gotten a lot of drivers on the show because of that program. And you can see it across all the series, all the different nationalities, and there being males and females out there on the track. So I understand that Brian France is going to get the backlash because of some of the things Donald Trump has said, but I think that he is getting too much backlash because Brian France's track record says, I'm all about diversity. I'm all about allowing everybody to have an equal opportunity to be in the Sprint Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, Truck Series, ARCA Series, Camp Pro Series. I am trying to develop programs to give everybody an opportunity, those that would not normally get an opportunity just because of possibly their race or their living condition or whatever the case may be. And therefore, where Donald Trump, his support of Donald Trump has caught this backlash, I don't take it as serious as I guess some people are taking it. There's a lot of people out there that I'm great friends with. Really great friends. Hell, my best friend. And we have the exact opposite political beliefs. I don't let it get to be that serious. I can honestly tell you that, and I know this doesn't sound, I guess, right, but I can honestly say with good conscience, I have nothing to do with why the economy and why we are where we are. I have voted against the last 3 presidents, and I can say that. And so I cannot catch any blame for what has gone on for the last God knows how many years because I didn't vote any of those in. I voted the exact opposite of all of the last 3 presidents. I don't know, it's just one of those things that I just feel that as much positive Brian France has done for the sport and as much positive Brian France has done for making the sport to be more diverse than it ever has been, that just because he's for somebody that believe his stance or not, what he is standing for, and people don't agree with it, should not reflect and have such a negative backlash on Brian France, especially for what he has stood for. Like I said, it's not surprising because that's where we are, and he did publicly endorse Donald Trump, and this is such a hot topic right now. But at the same time, I think it's too much because of everything that he has done for this sport. We got Dylan Martin joining us tonight. Got him in the studio. Very excited about getting him back on the show. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and pop him in here tonight. How you doing tonight, Dylan?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fine. Glad to have you on. Glad to already have you back for a second time this season. I guess the other time was technically right before the season started, but I still look at it as second time this season, so glad to have you back. Looking forward to hearing what's happened since the last time we talked. I believe that you had done the ARCA test at Daytona and was moving like the next day up here to North Carolina, so looking forward to talking about that, the 2016 season, what you've already done, what's going to be coming up, and everything else in between. But before we jump into that, as always, I got to give you an opportunity. Make sure you plug anything you want to plug, social media-wise, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you guys are using over there. Websites, sponsors, anything you want to throw out there real quick before we jump into this tonight.
Well, first off, I got to thank my sponsors, of course. Block Veterans Racing, Patio 150, Visual Images, just everybody just helped me to get to where I am today. And then also my website's DylanMartinRacing.com, and my Twitter and my Instagram is @DylanMartin07, and my Facebook's Dylan Martin Racing LLC.
And for those that have not liked them yet, you need to get over there because they've reached the 9,000 like milestone. So obviously, if you're not a friend of Dylan Martin on Facebook, you are missing out on something, and you need to get over there. And as a matter of fact, we're at 9,001 right now. So you guys need to make sure that you guys go over there and check him out and like him as well. Like I said, the last time we talked, you had the nice run at Daytona, got an opportunity to test out there. And if I'm not mistaken, the day after you were on the show, you moved. Either way, I know you moved. You're up here in North Carolina. How's North Carolina treating you?
It's a lot different here. I mean, Florida's definitely a lot faster pace. You know, you come down here and all the roads are just all windy back roads and things like that. Where Florida, you have one road and every road connects, and everybody's going 100 miles an hour trying to get places. And down here, it's a lot more people are a lot more leisure down here, so it's a little bit different, but I'm sure getting used to it, kind of have to get used to it, so it's been pretty good.
I tell you what, the road system, I agree. It's the exact opposite. You got all these back roads, and even their main highways are really not that serious here in North Carolina versus Florida. And so, Shorty and I got to experience it. We went down we had a meeting with you guys down in Miami. Going down that turnpike and doing 90 in the 70, and people still going by me, and then coming into my lane like I'm not even there and not even cleared me. That was like, I live right here, right outside Fort Bragg, and a lot of people, especially new people that move to this area, they complain, Fort Bragg, Fayetteville driving is the worst. And people don't understand. This is a big military post. And so you have all parts of the world trying to drive their style on one road, and it just doesn't work. The guy in California does not drive like the guy in Montana, which does not drive like the guy in Miami, that does not drive like the guy from Germany, that does not. I can go on all day long, and that's where the big cluster of what our situation is. But I will never complain about driving around here ever again after going down to Miami, and there's traffic, lanes going every which direction. I'm getting rolled over doing 90 miles an hour. It was crazy, and I'm just not. As much as I'm not a North Carolinian by heart, I'm still an Ohioan by heart. I would take the North Carolina over anything right at this point. So, yes, it's definitely a difference. How about the weather? I believe when you got down here it was probably warm. Then we hit this another cold front, and then now we're back up into the 80s again. Weather's kind of been all over the place. How you adjusting to that?
Actually, I like the weather a lot better. When you're in Florida, you're at the racetrack, sweating your butt off. You're in the works. You're in the shop, sweating pretty much all day long. You're sweating because it's 80, 90 degrees throughout the year. And, in North Carolina, most of the year is either 40, 70. I think they even hit 80. So even the heat up here isn't really anything like Florida. So I like the weather up here a lot better. So it's way nicer.
And I think the other thing I had to adjust to was the different food. And two prime examples. Where I'm from in Ohio, when we say we're having barbecue, that means someone's slapping some barbecue sauce. If it's bullseye, if it's sweet baby rays, whatever the case is, on some chicken and some ribs, and we're having a barbecue. In North Carolina, when they say barbecue, they're talking about pork with flavoring to it. It's not. When the word barbecue is used, I'm expecting barbecue sauce somewhere to be used. And I think the tea thing was also a big adjustment for me. I don't drink tea, but coming from the north, we only sold unsweet tea. If you want a sweet tea, we handed you sugar packets or sweet low packets. That's all you got. There was no such thing as sweet tea. And so I think those are the two things that was an adjustment, two examples of adjustments. Has that been an adjustment, the whole culture shock with that?
I mean, not really, because I'm living on my own now, so I try not to eat out as much. But I actually, when I was in Florida, I didn't really eat much barbecue. But when I'm here, every now and then, me and the guys will all go out to lunch, and of course, they all want to go to a barbecue place. And I mean, really, a lot of the barbecue places I've been to actually have been pretty awesome, because in Florida we don't really have those like dedicated barbecue places. We have maybe 3 or 4, but down here they're everywhere, and they're all actually pretty awesome.
If you like that, I've just never been big on barbecue. I don't know why. I've tried it a few times. I'm just not big on it. I guess because every time I hear the word barbecue, I grew up on my father had a farm, so we had homegrown everything, and you go from that and used to that kind of barbecue to, we're going to slap some pulled pork stuff on your sandwich, and I don't know, I just can't get into it. But anyway, what was it like getting to have an opportunity to be down here or up here with the team and start to have an everyday kind of work with the team versus making trips back and forth and before all this happened? What's that been like for you?
It's actually been pretty cool. You know, I've worked in the shop every day with these guys. I've learned a ton. You really see how different the racing is up here and how all the different equipment you use. You know, when in Florida we pretty much only have one place to go to buy parts. When you're up here and your race shop's literally right across the street, 20 other parts places, CNC shops, engine shops. So everything up here, I mean, it's a lot different. And it's actually pretty cool because, the day that one day if I go back home and I decide to race back home, I'll have these little tricks and stuff that I learned up here. So it's been awesome. You know, I've learned a lot, and just to see how different everything is actually really cool.
Now, have you had an opportunity to get out to, not racing wise, I'm going to get out in a second, but just had an opportunity to go to any tracks, local stuff?
The only local track I've been to so far is just Caraway. We tested there last week, I think, 4 or 5 days. So last week's test schedule was pretty crazy, and we're actually going there tomorrow. Not for me, but we're going to go test with another driver in our late model. So and then we raced there on Sunday, and that went pretty good. I think we qualified. We really qualified we went into. I think we qualified 10th or 11th and ended up actually finishing 7th. So everything up here is just, the racing, everything like that's just a lot different in Florida. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can, everything, just take it all in and just see where I can go with it.
Now, how many races have you had a chance to compete in this year?
Right now, the late model season for us just started. So it was actually the season opener at Caraway. So it's just been one so far.
And is there a difference in the racing styles, the competition level the same? Does it feel a little harder? I mean, what's that experience like for you?
It's surprisingly, it's way different here. When you're in Florida, most of the guys they're already in their mid-30s, and so they're not really trying to make it to NASCAR. So they're just doing their weekend gigs and stuff like that. Where you come up here and everybody's trying to make it. So the racing is a lot. You could say it's a lot more racier. When everybody's really there to do whatever it takes to get to the next spot. But it's a lot cleaner, since everybody pretty much does this for a full-time job, they don't want to have to come back to their shop every day and pretty much rebuild a car. So, they give a lot more room here, but it's a lot cleaner at the same time. So the racing here, I like it a lot better just because, for obvious reasons, you only got to repair a car every race.
How was the guys you compete against, your competitors, how they've been towards you? See, you're kind of the new guy, in the scene. They been open arms and conversational with you and giving you pointers, or they kind of left you out in the cold since you're the new guy. How's all that working?
No, surprisingly, down here, the people that race are from 15 to 30 or 40, so everybody down here is pretty equally matched. So they haven't really treated me like a rookie. So, obviously you'll have those 1 or 2 guys every race that'll try to rattle your cage a little bit, but definitely nothing like it was back in Florida.
How many races are you going to have? How many races do you guys have scheduled for this season?
I think our schedule right now we have 22 or 23. 23rd race is still pending. So, but right now we have a mix between the super late model, the late model stock, the ARCA car, and hopefully the Camping World truck at the end of the year.
Are any of them you competing for championships, or are they all just pretty much seat time kind of deals?
Seat time. The past 5 years I've raced, we don't really try and points race because then you kind of lose focus on trying to just run every race just one at a time. If you try to start running for points, you kind of get in over your head. You start thinking too much about things and making up one spot just because they get one extra point, things like that. So if you just go race by race, just try to win every single race, you'll eventually, by the end of the year, look at the points and be surprised that you're in the top 3.
Now, is it difficult bouncing from ride to ride? Is there what I'm trying to get at? Is there a big difference, because you're talking about 4 different vehicles that you're going to be running in? Is there a big difference in between them, or are they all similar enough that it doesn't really feel any different?
Every car, all the cars I'm running this year, they're all pretty much 360 degrees different of each other. So, but as a driver, you pretty much have to adapt. So the past 10 years I've raced, you're adapting every race to different tracks, different cars, different teams, different competitors and things like that. So, but, you know, every car you drive, one's going to be faster than the other, but the faster one's going to have more brakes and the slower one's going to have less brakes. So, you know, every car kind of equals out. So I don't really have that tough of a time adapting. That's actually one of the things I've been pretty good at in my career. So it hasn't been too tough, but we're actually going to Nashville in the ARCA car. So I guess we'll see then how good my adapting skills are.
Now, do you run all those different types of cars under the same team, or are you kind of bouncing around?
No, this year or this season, it's just one team. We're running with Empire Racing. Every car that I get in, even if it's not even with the team, they'll still have their logo on it no matter what. So once you sign with the team, you're kind of their driver no matter what.
Got you. And is the ARCA Series the one coming up next?
The next race we have, I think it's going to be the Easter 150 in Hickory, North Carolina. At that track is a super late model. So if not, I think the next race after that one will be back at Caraway in the late model stock.
How different, or not different, but how difficult? I'm not going to say difficult. What word am I going to use here? You know, when you use, let's lead up to this, and then maybe I'll think of the right word, but you'll catch what I'm saying anyway. And when you was in Florida, you got to see a lot of the same familiar tracks, and so there was a lot of familiarity, one, with the type of tracks down there, but two, the tracks you were going to because you went to them so often. How much of an adjustment now is it being in North Carolina and running these tracks in a little bit more northern East Coast versus down in Florida, or maybe, you know, the few states that you was going in down south? Now you're kind of going North Carolina on up with Nashville and everything. How difficult, or I guess maybe even how nervous are you with some of these tracks or a lot of these tracks, I guess, that you've never seen before? Not only the type of tracks, because they, you know, just kind of different, but also these tracks in particular.
They're actually a lot different than I would imagine they are from Florida. Like I said, Florida, we probably only had 6 tracks that we traveled to, and if you're living down there your whole life, those are the tracks you're racing at your entire life. So moving up here, when you probably have 13 tracks within 2 hours, 3 hours of each other, it's you know, the weather up here being so cold, a lot of the tracks, you know, some of them will have cracks, and like Caraway, when it rains a lot, the track will actually start seeping water through it. So the tracks up here are a lot different, but, you know, luckily, you know, I have a lot of people I can talk to about some pointers and stuff and the driving lines and things like that, or you can just go on the internet and watch an onboard video of just some races at a few different tracks to kind of get the hang of things there. So they for sure are a lot different here, but I have a lot of resources I can get to where it doesn't make it so difficult once I get there.
What do the teams do to help you prepare for that? Is there, you know, did they have you do iRacing? Did they have you watch YouTube videos? What does the team do, or what will you do to help prepare yourself for these tracks, especially since the fact that you've never seen any of these tracks?
I think a lot of it, you know, especially, like, you know, not every track they have on iRacing, but the tracks they do, I'll go on there and run for hours just trying to get every tenth I can get, just trying to figure out how the track acts. You know, when I tested the Daytona, I probably spent 3 or 4 hours just on the simulator, just trying to figure out how the cars act on the track, how the bumps are, and things like that. But like I said, you know, a lot of things that I do, I just get pointers from other drivers. You know, there's no way you can show up to every racetrack and just know everything 100% to actually get on the track and try it. So,
how useful is the iRacing? I know a lot of people use the iRacing, and I know it's a useful tool because the realistic of it and everything else. But at the same time, you don't get the same feel. You don't get, you know, the all the mechanicals that could possibly happen, or you can feel if it's a legitimate, you know, you hear a lot of times drivers talking about a tire vibration. You know, sometimes it's just mental, sometimes there's a real vibration, sometimes it's not an issue. There are so many different factors that go into real live racing versus just being on a computer system. And so I've always been curious, how helpful is it really for you guys, knowing it takes a lot of of the realistic stuff, even though it's a helpful tool, but it takes a lot of the reality from it.
I think iRacing, for drivers, it's mostly just to help them with the track. I mean, if I'm not gonna go get in a cup car tomorrow and be like, I need to run iRacing and see how the cup car handles, because, like you said, you're not gonna get the G forces, you're not gonna get the bounce and all the bumps and stuff, and just how the cars react in the corner. But a lot of things that I use it for, I just use it for the tracks that I go to, just to see, like I said, like where all the bumps are, and just to find the lines and things like that. Spend hours on there just trying to get faster and faster, and just trying to figure out the best line around the track. So the biggest thing for me is just learning the tracks and not really the cars.
It's crazy. And just think about how much the sport could have been different if all this stuff would have been possible back then, with iRacing and everything else. You can only imagine what it was like for them back in the day. With the equipment they even had, and let alone going to these tracks. So it just amazes me how much this sport has changed overall. Since you're going to be doing a possible truck series, I got to ask this question, because we've had the opportunity to kind of see it play out some, and that's with the caution clock in the truck series. Going into the season, I kind of had my caution on it. I didn't want to judge, and I was interested in, what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens. And then we watched Daytona, and we watched that caution clock actually cause a caution, with them trying to pit right before it hit zero to be on pit road when the caution came out, so they kind of taking advantage of that. And to me, it kind of spiced things up, made things interesting, and it gave you one more thing to look at. And there's certain tracks, I'm sorry, that it goes through a spurt that it just drags out. And as much as I love Charlotte, as many times I've been to Charlotte, to me, Charlotte's one of those tracks that you always get that period of the race that it just drags out and just single file, and they're spread out. They're not even really close to anybody. And so this kind of eliminates some of that. So, yeah, I like all that. I'm still waiting for the one time that you have a track, such as we had Las Vegas, and how important the tires were for the Sprint Cup Series, to have that caution clock ends about 22 laps out or 25 laps out, just out of that 20-lap range, and you have a leader out front, say Dylan Martin's out front for a second and a half, and that caution comes out, and now you have to pit, because tires are so important at that track that you can't afford not to go in. And all the possibilities, like we saw speeding violations last week, and we saw a lot of them, pit crews, lug nuts, and everything else. Then I want to know somebody's opinion. When somebody gets burnt because of that scenario, I want to see the reaction of the team and the driver. But to this point, I do like it so far. I think it adds another element to the race. In your opinion, going into seeing the caution clock implicated to the Truck Series and seeing how it's kind of affected the sport a little bit, what was your thoughts going into it? What's your thoughts on it now?
I think the caution clock can definitely go two ways. Obviously, having a caution every 20 minutes and having a restart every 20 minutes, I think for the fans, it'll make it a lot better to watch, But as a driver, if I was, like you said, if I was out front second and a half, especially with maybe 30, 40 laps to go, and the caution clock comes out, and I got to restart, and then I miss a shift or something like that, and fall back to fourth or fifth, and I lose the race to the caution clock, I don't think I'd be very happy with it. So I think for the fans, I think it's awesome for the fans, but as a driver, I don't think I'd like it very much.
I agree. Even the drivers, I think it's got to be good unless you get into that scenario. And like I said, I think now it's all thumbs up. Everybody, I think everything, all the changes that have happened so far, doing new, now the package Sprint Cup Series came with, is getting big thumbs up. I think the only thing that NASCAR dropped the ball on so far in 3 weeks was the Xfinity Series race where Kyle Busch led 199 out of 200 laps. I think that's the only ball that's been dropped to this point. And that just, I just don't feel the Sprint Cup guys need to be on Saturday, but that's a whole other discussion. But I think that so far it's all thumbs up. We'll see what happens when we finally see that predicament. Also, I know this doesn't affect you this year because you won't be participating in enough Truck Series races, but the addition of them doing the chase for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, knowing that you are getting to a point that here in the next year or two, it could possibly affect you in your championship run in either the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. Would you glad to see NASCAR make that part of those series as well? Would you rather them kept the old system? What's your feelings on it, since that is essentially going to affect you here soon?
Honestly, I don't really care for the chase. Being a short track driver for pretty much my whole life, I don't really think if you win one race, you should be automatically in the contention for a championship. I think you need to be able to run consistent, finish in one piece, finish up front, to be able to actually be contended for the championship. Because a lot of these, if you're a lower tier team and you win one race, you're in contingency for the championship. So I think that helps a lot. But I think being able to be declared a champion, I think you should have to be able to run consistently and finish up front. So a lot of people have different opinions on the chase. So I think more people like it than don't. So I think if they drop it to if they bring it down to these Xfinity and the Truck Series, I think you'll see some happy people. But as a driver, I just want to see just a normal, consistent championship.
And I wish there was a way that it could be a little bit more. And I agree. I think there's a little bit too much weight. Now, unfortunately for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, they only have 7 spots or something. So it takes a little bit more than just one win to get in. But the Sprint Cup Series, obviously, there's a lot of drivers that either had one or no win that got in. And that makes me have a little bit more respect for those that didn't have any wins that got in, because then they drove consistently better than anybody behind them, and probably more. Let me backtrack. They drove consistently better than everybody behind them, and then plus many of them above them, more than likely, just they happen to have wins. I agree that there's too much weight on it. I believe that there should be some kind of weight on a win, but I don't think it should be automatic. Excuse me. That you win, you're basically in. I do agree with that, and obviously NASCAR is going to continue to keep trying to come up with ways. But everybody's got to admit, though, the last 10 races of the last 2 years, though, have been probably some of the most exciting racing we've got to see, between 2 years ago with all the fights that went on in the garage area to last year, and the Kenseth and Joey Logano stuff, and knowing that we're guaranteed to at least have four driver championship possibility, versus there only being one or maybe 2 drivers possible to win a championship in the last race. But I do agree. There still needs to be some more modification with that. I got one more North Carolina, Florida question for you, and I'm going to get you out of here. I know that racing is pretty big in Florida, but I can imagine it's not anywhere close to it is in North Carolina. How is it more? I don't know what to say this. Going from Florida to North Carolina, did you end up going from an atmosphere that there's racing, but it's just racing, to an atmosphere that you're surrounded by racing?
Oh yeah, for sure. They've always said North Carolina is the hub of racing, and I think that's kind of an understatement. I don't think I've driven a single day since I've been here without seeing some kind of race trailer or race shop or some sign about some racetrack. So racing down here is definitely the hub of racing. In Florida, you may see a race car go down the road every now and then on a trailer and things like that, but pretty much every 2 miles there's either a race shop or some sort of racing type deal place. So it's definitely a lot bigger down here than Florida, for sure.
Now being a driver, does that make you feel? And I know it's kind of a double-ended sword, because I know you got family listening back home, and you're probably not going to hear this answer. But being a driver, does it make you feel more at home being here where you're at now versus back then? And taking away the family part of it, just your racing career and the atmosphere you're around, building your career? Do you feel more at home here, or is there really not much of a difference?
Oh, for sure. It's way more like home here. You know, I've been racing for almost 10 years, and I've raced with a lot of people. So, you know, most of the friends on Facebook that I have are mainly from North Carolina or raced around here and things like that. So, and then you're going to move down here where you kind of figured it was everything down here is racing, but when you get down here and there's kind of an overwhelming amount of racing stuff here. It's a lot. There's a ton of racing down here. So, it's definitely for sure way more of a home for racing down here, or up here, as I should say.
There was something else I had in my mind, and then I was going to say it, and I forgot it. Oh, well. Yeah, I remember this day. I know you was highly involved with your community down there with the Shriners Hospital and everything you had going on. Have you had an opportunity to start working on anything here in North Carolina to get involved with the community where you're at now?
Unfortunately, I haven't. You know, when we were down back at home, we had a lot of connections. So, unfortunately, up here, we're still trying to kind of get our foot in the door in a few places, trying to get the community stuff back. But luckily, you know, Empire, they have a lot of people they know, especially with the brakes. The brakes program they have with Doug. So we're for sure going to try. We're going to get that back going this year. We're just kind of taking time, just trying to get our foot in the door to get things rolling again.
And we've had Doug on the show, great guy. I love that program, and I knew at some point you'd get back involved with that. You've been highly involved with a lot of different things, and it's one of those things that's inspirational and is really cool to see someone, especially your age, be so highly involved with. So I knew it wasn't a matter of if, it was just more of a matter of when you was going to get involved and find your opening to get in there. So definitely make sure you guys pass that on when you guys get things rolling with that, so we can be involved and also share that stuff as well. Dylan, as always, had a blast with you. Looking forward to having you back. Looking forward to seeing how you finish in your next race and all the testing and everything you got going on. I might not always comment or stuff I try to share, but I at least see the stuff going on constantly on the time feed. Like I said, if you guys are not friends with Dylan Martin Racing LLC, make sure you guys get over there, check it out. 9001. I am part of 9001 fans. Make sure that you guys get over there, check it out. He's always got a lot of stuff going on. If it's not on the track, it's off the track. If it's not off the track, it's with charity, foundations, a lot of stuff going on with Dylan Martin. So make sure you guys check that out. Dylan, I want you to have a great night. Good luck on the rest of the 2016 season and moving forward. Can't wait to have you back on. You enjoy yourself the rest of the night.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again.
Yes, sir. That was Dylan Martin, one of those young, up-and-coming, talented drivers that we get the opportunity. I love the opportunity. I don't think I can express how much I love the opportunity having these young drivers on. As great as yes, they would. And it's funny because, of course, as a CEO of a company, and of course, when it comes to the advertiser side of the house and everything else, you're constantly looking at numbers, and you're constantly hoping your numbers go up. And he has a big focus. And as a matter of fact, Blog Talk Radio, they changed their whole stuff behind the scenes. And we get to see different numbers now. And some of it's cool, some of it I don't get to see my live listeners no more, and I don't think the listeners is quite as accurate because I know statistically what shows do every single week. And the only thing that they've really been doing is going up, and now the numbers are kind of all over the place. So I don't know all that and what all that's about. But I can see other information that we've never got to see before, and it's really cool. But being in the position I'm in and being a host of a show and, of course, having, Chris and Damien B and hosting their show and Steve Billmeyer hosting his show, numbers are a thing for us. And, of course, we're going to want big numbers. I love being able to know that between all our platforms, the I-95 Sports Radio Network, and shout-outs to them. Make sure you guys follow them. over on Facebook, I-95 Sports Entertainment. Great guys, and we get the opportunity to have our shows rebroadcast on their network. Obviously, across all the boards, we got to say we effectively touch a couple 100,000 people a month. I mean, that's great to be able to say, and so it's all about numbers. And as much as we would love to have, a Jimmy Johnson come on or a Kyle Busch come on, and don't get me wrong, I'm trying. I don't sweat it because I get an opportunity to see the future of this sport. I get an opportunity, and I think this is the most important part to me. I get to honestly see and talk to some of the best, most gifted, talented drivers there are. We talked about this when we talked about the downforce package, how this is give us an opportunity to see which ones are truly the racers. Before, you kind of got in the car that kind of anybody could have, I'm not going to say anybody, but I think with this new downforce package, it made you have to have the skill sets that you once had to have skill sets. We went through a whole point in time, we just had 43 cars out there. We didn't have 43 truly talented drivers out there. We just didn't. This new downforce package lets us know who really should still be in NASCAR and the Sprint Cup Series, and who those that need to go ahead and find yourself another job, another career, another series, whatever the case may be. I get the opportunity to see those that and not have that free ride all the way up and just coast their way into the Sprint Cup Series. I'm watching and get to talk to those that are out there on the Friday nights and the Saturday nights and showing the world that they are racers and competing and working their way up. It is beyond belief how incredibly honoring it is to have this opportunity. Like I said, most shows, we don't want nobody below this series. I know a lot of shows that you ain't in the top 3 series or at least in the ARCA series, maybe even the K&N Pro Series, they're not going to mess with it. They're not going to waste their time. And here we are, and we get the opportunity to talk to drivers that drive up just up the road here on Racing with Big Sweat. I sat here. It might have even been on, it was on Racing with Big Sweat. No more than an hour either direction I go here, and could have been the track that they drove at. I am more interested in talking to those that are truly talented athletes versus worrying about having some big name guy on the show. Like I said, don't get me wrong, we'd love to have, and we try. It's one of those things that 110 has not come across enough timelines and feeds, so make sure you guys share. No, we've had Carolina Hurricane guy on. We've had, Sprint Cup, or not Sprint Cup, but, we've had the former Sprint Cup Rookie of the Year, Kevin Conway. But we've had Max Pappas on the show. But, we've had Truck Series, we've had Xfinity Series, ARCA Series, K&N Pro Series, all the way down. I would rather have opportunity to talk to the future of the sport and the reason why I get excited every week that I get to do this and talk to these different athletes than be stressing about, okay, they got to have a certain statue. And that aggravates me because I've had athletes do that to me. As a matter of fact, I've had one or two, but one of them was a race car driver. And which really surprised me. One that actually could use some publicity for the things she's doing. She's very against anything being done with animals. I think that she can live in a world that no animal was ever touched in any which way to include eat. And we all ran electric cars that she would probably be the happiest person alive. And, I have no problem letting you come on and talk about it. But once I got the conversation, had had the email or the message sent back to me, well, what are your numbers? And I'm like, I don't care if you're talking to one or you're talking to 2 million people. You're talking about you. You're promoting yourself. You're talking about what you believe is a great cause and being vegan and a great cause by going electric. What does it make a difference? If you affect one person or if you have one person listen, you could have 2 million people listen and be on ESPN and not affect nobody. You can come onto a show and have one person and affect that one person. I mean, quite simple. Now, I know throwing out what kind of, roughly what kind of numbers we look at on a monthly basis. Well, obviously, it's more than one person. And I guarantee that, if she came on, she might only affect a handful of people total, probably. I'm sorry, but I'm not giving up my meat. and until they make a cost-efficient electric car that I can afford to buy and use an efficient way to do it, I'm not going to give up my gasoline car, especially now the gas is back down to $1.69 here in North Carolina, or in my part of North Carolina, where gas is everywhere else. But sit here I mean, you gotta understand, Dylan Martin, God, I want to say he was like 14, 15 years old when he first came on the show. Now he's moved like 8 hours away from his home, and on a race team is going to be running in 4 different series. Went from interviewing and getting one-word answers to, you heard him, no problem getting 30 minutes. I tell you what, the first couple interviews, it was tough. Good guy, 10, 15 minutes into it, I was like, oh, my God, what am I going to say? Because all his answers were one-worded answers. Now we breezed through it. I probably could have sat there and talked to him the whole rest of the show. You got that NBA commercial that says this is why we play the game. This is why I do this. I honestly think this is why I have so much more excitement for what is going on in NASCAR, because I get to see and I get to talk to the drivers that are about to be the future of this sport. The drivers that are actually truly talented and gifted. Make sure you guys check me out on Twitter at CJSports1. Make sure you guys check out the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. You can check out our blog, our fan page. You can check out my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Also, check out our company site, www.the110nation.com, for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. What is the Cleveland Browns doing? You lose 4 starters, and yet you've still not cut Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel has not been bounced from the Browns yet. Cleveland did not release the partying quarterback as expected on Wednesday, but the team lost 4 starters when the NFL opened free agency and kicked off the new calendar year. The Browns have indicated for weeks that they were done with Manziel because of his behavior and intended to cut ties with him. But he'll be on their roster at least for one more day. And the Browns rules surprisingly hung on to Manziel. They watched 3-time Pro Bowler Alex Mack, speedy wide receiver Travis Benjamin, dependable right tackle Mitchell Schwartz, and Pro Bowl safety Tajon Gibson sign with other teams. And Gibson, that's going to be a big hit. What are you waiting on, Cleveland? You're not going to attract any receivers not knowing who your quarterback's going to be, nor are you going to attract a receiver knowing the kind of ups and downs Johnny Manziel is. And as long as Johnny Manziel is still on that roster, that means there's still a possibility that someone's stupid enough to put him back on the field, which then therefore you don't know from one week to next. Is he going to show up? Is he going to go to Vegas? Is he going to be drunk? What the case is going to be? Then are you going back to Josh McCown, Austin Davis, whatever the case may be? What are you doing, Cleveland? You gave up critical pieces. And it's crazy because just a few years ago, this Browns team was only really a quarterback and maybe another piece away from being a playoff team. That was it. Had one of the best defenses in the league. Offensively, you needed a quarterback and probably a good run game. You probably would have been good. Now, because you've diddle-daddled around, your defense is no longer. Once upon a time, your defense it used to be one of the best defense. Now you've diddle-daddled around, your defense is no longer one of the best. Now you're losing receivers. Now you don't really have a legitimate starting quarterback. Hey, like I said in the beginning of the show, I don't think anybody knows what direction the Browns are going or they want to go. It makes absolutely no sense to me. You even went out and got Hugh Jackson. You got a good coach. I'm hoping that maybe this is some plan that the Browns and Hugh Jackson have put together. I know Hugh Jackson was not a fan of Johnny Manziel and did not want him to be on their roster, so I don't understand what the holdup is unless they honestly think that they can get something out of him, but it being free agency, I mean, Manziel can go where he wants. As much as I don't want to say this, but as much as draft picks we have wasted and players we've ended up getting away, you might as well just start rebuilding again. I think the Browns, any Browns fans out there, I think they just honestly just want direction. At least know that this team is going in some kind of direction. Not just recycling players every year, not wasting draft picks to end up giving away to other teams, to end up giving the players to other teams, but we want direction. I don't think that there's been any other team for this extended period of time that has had no direction. I don't get it. You go through coach after coach after coach. You go through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. You waste draft pick after draft pick after draft pick. You change owners. Is it too much to ask as a Cleveland Browns fan to at least show us some kind of direction? Let us know that this team is building for something. I obviously am going to continue to stick by my team. It'll be really hard if they keep Johnny Manziel, especially how I boycotted, and it was a long time before I had any kind of acknowledgement that I was a Browns fan after they drafted him. Not only did they draft him, but they gave up stuff to get him. I think that this would be a tough one to buy it again if you decide, you know what, even though Johnny Manziel doesn't care, and even though that we said we're going to get rid of him, and even though this and even though that, we're going to keep him again. That's going to be tough to swallow. If you keep him, then I wish you just never said nothing in the first place that you were going to get rid of him. At least know we were still going in the same direction the whole time. Now if you keep him, now it looks like you guys can't make up your mind. Do we keep him? Do we don't? Do we keep him? Do we don't? Tell you what, it's definitely not easy being a Browns fan by any stretch of the imagination, and it takes a lot of patience. That's all I can say. I think it's that mid to late 80s, and then having your hopes up. Super Bowl favors, not only the favors to go, but favored to win. And then 4 games into the season, hey, we're moving this. We're moving this to Baltimore. Sorry, guys. You know, you had Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, two of his high-profile names, plus the coaching staff. '95 Browns coaching staff. Obviously, that is a big topic of conversation. I just have to, type that all in. You had Bill Belichick. That's Scott Pioli, when it being the GM out there in Kansas City. Mike Tannenbaum, Jim Shorts, former Detroit Lion, Kirk Ferentz, who was head coach at Iowa, Thomas Dimitroff, scouts with the Browns, Nick Saban, Eric Mangini, Phil Savage, George Kanakis, Michael Lombardi. I mean, they had, oh my God, they had the coaching staff. And they had players to go with it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't just the coaching staff that made this 95 Browns team the favorite. At least back then it was direction. It has been so long since the Browns have had any kind of direction, and it's really sad and disappointing. It really, honestly, truly is. One day. And like they say in Cleveland, there's always next year. Tomorrow night we got the Super Show, where we combine racing with Big Sweat in the 110 Nation Sports Show. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night. Got a great show planned for you. Big Sweat's got some big guests lined up for you guys tomorrow night. Looking forward to throwing my 2 cents in, having a good time, and then being joined in by the Racing with Big Sweat show. So looking forward to that. Also, don't forget, we got the Happy Hour Drive Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Make sure you guys don't miss that. Great show over there. Get you guys all caught up, great interviews, NASCAR show, so make sure you guys check that out. Follow that up at 9 o'clock with the Dirt Talk Hour. Chris Creighton, Damian Bean, they do a great job. Dirt Track Talk. There we go. And get you guys they've had some phenomenal shows. Remarkable. Sunday night show was a show that you did not want to miss. Great show. So make sure you guys go back and check that out. Monday night, Steve joins me for Rubbing His Racing. So make sure you guys check that out, 7 o'clock Monday night. We get an opportunity to recap. This Monday we'll be recapping Las Vegas. So I'm sorry, not Las Vegas. Phoenix. Last week we recapped Phoenix or Las Vegas. But make sure you guys check that out as well. Make sure you guys check out Steve Billmeyer's group, NASCAR and Other Racing. If you're a race car fan, it don't matter if you're a NASCAR fan, Indy fan, it don't matter what you are. That's why the and Other Racing part is on that title. They cover everything. They have race threads. They have hundreds to thousands of people commenting during the race thread. Friend, family. They have kids and upcoming drivers in there and everything else in there. So it's really family friendly. But make sure you guys check that out. Also, check out the Dirt Talk Hour fan page as well, as those guys are doing a phenomenal job for the Sunday night show. I think if there's anything else I got to throw out there real quick before we wrap it up. I think that's it. I want to make sure I thank everybody for tuning in. Glad to had all the action going on in the NFL today. If you guys missed that, make sure you guys go back and check out the beginning of the show. Got you guys caught up with all the free agency that went underway today, being the first day of the new NFL year. So a lot of things went on. So a lot of cuts and a lot of signings. So make sure you guys check that out. Also, you guys check it out on our fan page or share all those over there so you guys knew what was going on throughout the day. So you guys make sure you check that as well. I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in. Looking forward to being back here tomorrow night, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation. So be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110nation and on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. Until next time.
Any Napa guy knows, and science proves, the best minivan is the one you've already got. Part kid transporter, part drywall mover. Who cares if the faux wood grain is a little faded? That was a platinum package option in 1987. With over 400,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep anything on the road. Because it's not old, it's vintage. That's Napa know-how.